Welcome back to the Bro Show. Chad, we're through the college football season. We somehow got screwed on Ohio State hitting a 55-yard pass to get within first and goal to the point where they couldn't even kneel the ball out and kick the field goal to get the cover on Ohio State minus 8.5. But otherwise, last week was pretty good for me in the video, at least. I hit every NFL game, a couple pushes in there, but I do feel like I was on the right side for both, with Houston having that short field goal missed, which would have been the cover, and then Philly giving up a score at the very end that would have had the cover for them. So, we were both on Washington plus 9.5. They ended up winning that game outright. We were both on the Bills. They ended up winning that game outright as well. So decent looks for us in last week's video. We're on to this weekend, a massive, massive weekend of NFL championship games for the conference. We got the Bills and the Chiefs in the AFC, the matchup everybody wanted to see. And in the NFC, we have a little NFC East rivalry game. The surprising Commanders coming through to take on Philly. I think a lot of people expected Philly, Bills, and Chiefs to be in the spot. No one expected Washington. Chad, which game are you more looking forward to this weekend?
Obviously my team's the Cowboys, so I'm emotionally invested in the NFC. I'm a little torn. I've got a couple futures that show the Bills and Eagles in the Super Bowl, and that would be really profitable for me. But you know what? I won't be able to stand it if the Eagles win a Super Bowl. So I don't think the Eagles beat either the Bills or the Chiefs, so I feel okay about that. But I'm probably more excited to watch this NFC matchup.
I kind of agree. I think whoever wins this AFC one will probably win the Super Bowl, and that's probably why I'm a little bit more excited to watch it. We have a super competitive matchup here, and this is the one we're going to start off talking about first. The Bills heading down to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs. Chiefs are only 1.5 point favorites here. The Bills did end up winning in the first game during the regular season. What do you think is going to happen here in this AFC Championship game?
So we've talked about it ad nauseum. I'm terrible in my games against, either with or against the Chiefs. Just any game that I bet with the Chiefs, I've got a terrible record. Last week, I thought I had one nailed, and then Andy Reid did, a masterful job making sure that they put themselves in a position to absolutely win that game, right? Everyone was like, why did they do that? There's a conspiracy. No, they were up 11, and they take the safety. Now it's still a 2-point game. So, they did the right thing. It was a push, so that's better than a loss. But that being said, we're in Fayetteville, so we're kind of on the outskirts of the epicenter of Chiefs Nation, let's call it. And ever since the Chiefs have gotten good, all of a sudden, all these people come out of the woodworks, right? Oh, big Chiefs fans now. So it's something that's really, really been annoying to me. So I want to bet against the Chiefs. I want the Chiefs to lose. I like Josh Allen. I also like, Lamar. If the Ravens had won last week, I'd be rooting for the Ravens. But I really feel like the Bills' biggest challenge this season was last week against the Ravens, who have only gotten stronger as the season's progressed. You looked at the front half of the season, the Ravens had one of the worst defenses. They finished the season with a much better secondary, a much better passing defense, and I believe either the number 1 or number 2 rush defense in the NFL. So they were getting stronger. And Josh Allen and the Bills, who are mostly healthy now, took care of them. So you look back to, I can't remember which week it was, I believe it was in October, when the Bills, they beat the Chiefs 31-20. And they were missing Rousseau, they were missing Milano, I think they were missing Mac Hollins. They were missing, I think, 4 or 5 of their starters in that game and still took care of business. So, it's really hard to beat a team twice. It's really hard to beat Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes twice. But this week, I'm gonna continue riding the Bills. I want to see them in the Super Bowl. I have a special place in my heart for the Bills. Losing 2 back-to-back Super Bowls in the 90s, 2 of them to the Cowboys. I've got a heart for these guys. And again, I think Josh Allen's gonna be the MVP, and I think it would be the cherry on top for them to go ahead and make it to the Super Bowl and hopefully win it.
Chiefs were 15-2 in the regular season. They basically took week 18 off, put in all the backups, lost 38-0 against Denver. If you don't count that game, their only loss this year was to the Buffalo Bills. That one was on the road. The Bills won by 9. And this game is back at Kansas City. Now, normally we know that when it comes to NFL spreads, home field advantage is worth around 3 points. So the Chiefs being at -1.5 means that Vegas thinks that on a neutral site, the Bills would actually be favored to win this game. So then the question kind of is like, well, do the Chiefs have enough firepower? Do they have enough home field advantage to get it done? We saw last game, Travis Kelce had a vintage performance. I was all over Kelce yards in my bets on that game because Kelce has had 13 consecutive 70-yard plus playoff performances, make it 14 now after last week's performance. And it felt like Kansas City was somewhat saving him during the regular season for the playoffs and especially for this game. So Kansas City was not the strongest team in the NFL this year, regardless of what the record shows. They were one of 3 teams to not score 30 points in any game this season. The other 2, I believe, were New England, who has a top 5 pick, and the Raiders, who also have like a horrible season. Neither of those 2 teams were offensive powerhouses. And right next to them in futility is the Chiefs. But again, they got the job done this year primarily through their defense. Their defense this year was absolutely studly. Steve Spagnuolo did an incredible job coordinating that defense. And generally speaking, when the Chiefs have made runs in the playoffs and have won the Super Bowl, it's been because of their defense. So I think this matchup really all comes down to the Chiefs defense versus the Bills offense. And when I look at the Bills offense, they don't really make mistakes. Josh Allen had some of the fewest turnovers of any quarterback in the NFL this season. And they also don't really have a lot of stars at the skill position players, which means if you're Kansas City, who are you going to target to try to take away? Are you going to try to take away Amari Cooper? They barely throw to him anyways. Khalil Shakir, I don't think that's probably the best move, investing a bunch of resources into stopping Shakir or Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid. James Cook and Josh Allen running is a threat out of the backfield, but that's just your normal run defense. I actually also like the Bills in this game. I think that Josh Allen is playing the best football he's ever played in his life, and because he's not needed to rely on guys like Stephon Diggs, and the offense is a lot more wide open and free-flowing, it allows the Bills to be a lot more I don't want to say conservative, but they can kind of take what the defense gives them. And if Spags is truly blitzing a lot like he normally does, they can find the screens, the drag routes, the crossers to get on that. Or if they do find the good matchups, they can go ahead and take that on. The Chiefs offense, I think, is going to be the issue here. Obviously, I don't love betting against Mahomes, but if they do just decide to take away Kelce, you know how many wide receiver receptions the Chiefs had in last week's game against Houston?
2, 3?
0. 0 catches caught by wide receivers last week against Houston. They were looking like Penn State out there.
Wow.
So Buffalo can kind of, take away Kelce, which is not the easiest assignment in the world. I do think that they'll have a great chance in this game, and I do expect them to do so. I like the Bills to come in. I know it's very hard to beat a team twice in one season, but I also expect the public to be very heavy on Kansas City this game. So a lot of factors in play here. It should be an awesome spot. I am also on Buffalo. And if you guys want to ride Buffalo with me or Chad, the best place to do that is on BroThrow.com and use that promo code YouTube to sign up today for absolutely free. Best odds on the market, plus 100 on every over, under, and spread bet. BroThrow.com/YouTube to sign up today. All right, Chad, let's move over to the NFC. We got Washington. We got the Eagles. 6-point favorites here for the Eagles, pretty much in the exact same spot they were in last game against the Rams. But I don't know. I think that Washington is playing much better football right now than the Rams were. The Rams, as we talked about in the video last week, had an incredible defensive line performance against Minnesota, and they actually were able to somewhat duplicate that against the Eagles. Their defensive line was causing havoc, and that was part of the reason why Saquon Barkley had to run for 250 yards for them to even escape, because the pass game was certainly not working for the Eagles in that game. Jalen Hurts was not really throwing the ball that well. He looked like he got hurt at one point during the game. A.J. Brown continues to read his book on the sideline because that's how disinterested he's gotten in this pass game. But the issue with the Washington defense compared to the Rams defense is Washington's weakness, in my opinion, is on their defensive line. They have one of the worst run defenses in the NFL this season, and that's not a really good thing to have when you're going up against Saquon Barkley and one of the best offensive lines in the Eagles' O-line. So I think if you like Washington this game, it's entirely incumbent on Jaden Daniels. You think that he's going to be scoring 30, 35 plus points like he's been doing basically every single game recently. But I think the Eagles defense is too strong. They have a studly defensive line, so they'll be able to, even devote some resources to the QB spy. I don't see a lot of running up the middle for Washington. I see a lot more passing for them to win this game. And the Eagles do have some of the top corners. Now, granted, a lot of their secondary players are rookies, so we'll see how they perform. But if it's rookie versus rookie and the Eagles have a definitive strength in the run game it's hard for me not to side with the Eagles -6 here. I certainly like the Eagles on the money line, and it's really going to all come down to Washington's ability to stop Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley this week has a 130.5-yard over-underline for his rush yards, which I believe I saw is the highest in the history of, DraftKings fan, of all the main books, which is just an absolutely insane number, but it really shows how much we're expecting the Eagles to destroy the Commanders on the ground. You also have Jalen Hurts with his great running ability. Ultimately, I know, again, just like with the Bills Chiefs, these two teams have played twice already this season. They've split both those matchups. So there's no kind of like, oh, it's tough to beat a team 3 times in one season, which I actually would hold a lot of weight to me in these two interdivisional matchups. But with Washington getting it done, with the Eagles getting it better, more done at home when they did play for the first time this season in Philly, Eagles won that game by 8. I'm going to stick with Philly -6 here.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Again, I'm kind of letting some of my emotions get in the way. If there's a team that I want to not make it to the Super Bowl the most, it's the Eagles. Shout out to Jay and Jason, a couple Eagles fans from Arkansas. I don't know how that happens, but anyway, just to piggyback, a couple things that you mentioned. Yes, they did split during the season, but if you remember, if you go back to the second game where the Redskins Commanders play the Eagles, Jalen had a concussion in that game. Yes, the Commanders ended up winning that game. Kenny Pickett was a starter last year, so it's not like they had, a real, bench quarterback come in the game. They had someone who can go and run that offense. So yeah, if Jalen plays that game, they probably win. I think, they won by 3, I think. So I'm going to kind of look at that as they have won both games, and this is going to be the third game. I know that's revisionist history, but Jalen is, he's the starter for that team for a reason. He was the MVP runner-up a couple of years ago for a reason. He is good in the system. But Jalen's been suffering from a little bit of a bum knee this week. You watch some videos from practice. He's kind of running on that, moving on that gingerly. He was a full participant yesterday, so he obviously is going to play. The question for me is just how close to 100% is he? Last week against the Rams, he popped off a 40, 60-yard run, somewhere in that range, for a touchdown. He looked great. So if he's not 100%, I'm not going to be able to lean on him to be able to really use his legs, which makes him gives him his strength and for opposing defenses. But, the other thing that you mentioned is the Commanders are one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. And on the opposite side of that, they're one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. But here's an interesting statistic. I think Jalen Hurts is either 4-3 or 3-4 in the postseason. In all of the games that they've won, he's thrown for fewer than 55 yards. And now they have Saquon Barkley. They have probably the best offensive line, like you mentioned, in years. They're almost completely healthy in that sense. And so they're going to lean on the run. We know that's going to be the case. And does that mean it's a low-scoring game? If it does, then I do like the +6 in the Commanders. And that was my pick early in the week. They're the hot hand, like we mentioned. Jaden Daniels is playing like a 10-year veteran. He's playing outstanding football. He looks like a veteran out there. His decision-making, his accuracy, his ability to know when to run, when to throw the ball away. He's great. And we're going to be dealing with him for 10 more years, and I hate it. But they've got the hot hand. They've got Dan Quinn, our defensive-minded head coach, who's in the finalists for Coach of the Year, taking the last place NFC East team with a rookie quarterback to the NFC Championship. It's outstanding. So I think they have a lot of momentum. And I swear, last week, if the Rams-Eagles play in a stadium where it's not snowing, I think the Rams win that game. You go back and look at a lot of the drops, a lot of the balls that hit hands, open hands, that just hit the ground. A lot of plays where Puka couldn't get his footing, that he separated from the wide receiver, fell down. Lots of those instances where I really think that the pass-heavy defense maybe would have taken that game. So, obviously they won, and it is what it is. They played in snow and they beat them. But I really think it would have been different last week, and we'd have a different matchup this week. Especially on that final drive. They're a couple plays away from scoring with a few seconds left, and now they're up 1 if they make the extra point. So a lot of things could have gone a different way. So for that reason, I like the Redskins. I think they're either going to, I don't know, I think they're either going to win or get blown out. And I don't think that they're going to get blown out because they haven't gotten blown out. And I think that they've improved as the season's progressed. So that's my pick. Redskins, let's go. Hail.
I could definitely see if the Eagles fall far behind. Like, let's say Washington gets up 10-0, 14-0. It could definitely be tough for them to come back if the ground game isn't working. But again, if you want to ride with Chad on Washington or with me on Philly, go to brothrow.com/YouTube right now to sign up absolutely for free and get your bets in for the weekend. Shorter video today, Chad. Only 2 games to talk about. Let's talk a little more NFL, though. My Bears did hire Ben Johnson as their new head coach. Very excited about that. He was definitely my number 1 pick. Most of the coaching spots have been filled out. Both the Lions have lost both their coordinators. Glenn to the Jets, Johnson to the Bears. Mike Vrabel returns reunited with the Patriots. And earlier today, we heard that Pete Carroll is coming back to coach the Raiders. The big storylines of the coaching carousel: Liam Cohen being a scumbag and not reporting to Tampa that he's taking the Jags job, instead lying that he's with his sick child when he was actually interviewing with the Jags. So interesting there. Maybe some new rivalry between the Florida teams. But your Cowboys still have yet to hire a coach. Who are you hoping for the Cowboys?
All right. So there's 2 teams now that have vacancies in their head coaching positions: the Dallas Cowboys and the New Orleans Saints. As far as I know, could be wrong, but I think that's the case.
Correct.
Who am I hoping for? Boy, great question. It doesn't matter, I think, is the answer. We were talking about this yesterday. Really, there's only really one team in the NFL where the general manager, if they make bad decisions, won't get fired. And that's the Dallas Cowboys, because it's Jerry Jones. He's the owner, general manager, and he holds the keys. And, at this point, I don't know that the Cowboys are as interested in winning as they are getting Netflix contracts. They love the limelight. It wouldn't surprise me if they didn't announce until right before the Super Bowl or at halftime during the NFC, AFC championships, because they love the limelight. If Schottenheimer is the offensive, or if he is the head coach, which is what it kind of is looking like at this point, it'll be very on brand. He was pretty good when he was calling plays in Seattle. Mike McCarthy was calling plays in Dallas while he was there. And so it's very odd to hire a head coach who was your offensive coordinator, who was not calling plays, and who did not get a call from any other team in the league. So who would I love to see at this point? This is interesting, maybe for some of our viewers. At this point, I feel like the Cowboys are in a burn it down situation. And what I mean by that is there's not really an open head coach or a head coach who's available that I really think would take the team to the next level or has any interest in dealing with Jerry Jones. It's just not a very, as Troy Aikman said, it's just not a very desirable position at this point in the organization. So my pick at this point is you got to have someone who's you're going to be okay with them really failing or hitting a home run. And in my mind, that's Prime. Like, if they hired Prime has a history, and I know that's going to be, that's a very, polarizing position.
It's a very bold take, yes.
And I get it. I totally get it. He's never coached in the NFL, but he does have a track record of bringing organizations to the top. He's done that 3 times in high school, college, and then again in college, obviously with Colorado. And what I've read about him and those that are in the industry that know him is that he comes in, he is the head coach in a traditional sense. He hires coordinators and he lets them do their job. McCarthy obviously didn't let Schottenheimer do his job. McCarthy's the play caller. Didn't necessarily love the scheme, but I get why they might go with Schottenheimer. They want to keep Dak with some continuity in the offense. He knows him. It'd be cool to have Prime, because I'm already writing off 25, possibly 26. And now you're 3 years into the Dak contract. You're 3 years into the CD contract. They're past their primes necessarily. Micah Parsons, who knows what they're going to do. Right now it's kind of grim for Cowboys fans. We went into this season thinking that we could continue a 12-plus win season, make it the playoffs. Dak gets hurt, drop a couple bad games early. So I'm just kind of at into my rope right now. I don't have a lot of hope necessarily. So it'll probably be Schottenheimer. I think it'd be cool to have Dion because it would shake things up. Jerry would get his airwaves fulfilled, because Prime is he is the news all the time. And I think it would be exciting, and I think that the players would enjoy having him there. But I don't see Dion getting that job at this point. It's probably gonna be shoddy, and then who knows for DC? Who knows for OC? Whatever, man. I don't know. Who do you think?
Well, I think if they were going to fire McCarthy and promote an assistant, they should have done it last year and kept Dan Quinn. I mean, I completely agree with you that Schottenheimer doesn't seem to be getting a lot of buzz from anybody else. You know, it's kind of like
that makes too much sense. Why would they do that? You know, Dan Quinn goes and he takes a rookie quarterback in a last place team to the NFC Championship, and Cowboy fans are sitting here going, "Hey, man," because they gave up 40 plus points, you know, in the division round in the wild card round against the Packers. You know, they're like, "Oh, see, he's terrible." All right, well, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's really looking at Schottenheimer. Honestly, when I saw the first reports, I thought they were talking about his dad, Marty Schottenheimer, and I'm like, there's no way they're going back to this old guy. So Brian Schottenheimer was completely off my radar. You know, I look at the.
Did you even know? Did you know he was the OC in Dallas?
No, honestly, no.
Yeah, he's just he's an analyst. Right. He's in the booth as the analyst, right? I mean, it's Mike's offense. So
the way I would look at the Cowboys is, you know, you've got the Eagles with the top offense. You got Jaden Daniels, a young rookie quarterback. You got the Giants, who technically have an offensive coach in Dable, and they're probably looking to get a young quarterback soon. Jalen Hurts is young. I think Cowboys maybe need to look for a defensive coach with the strength of the quarterback play in their division. But I'm also concerned, if I'm a Cowboys fan or even if someone looking for the Cowboys job, at how Jerry treated Cooper Rush. This is a guy who's not making a lot of money, who devoted a lot of time and a lot of commitment to the team, and you screwed him over for $500K, which is not a lot of money in the NFL. So if you do that to him, why do you not do that to your coach? Why do you not do that to other future players? I think there's probably a lot of coaches out there who are not willing to work for Jerry Jones after that stunt he pulled. So I actually do think the Cowboys are going to have to try to get a candidate that no one else is really interested in, like a Schottenheimer, like a Prime. They could probably look for some other top college guys, but yeah, if they're looking in the NFL, I'd maybe take a look at like Vic Fangio, who's the Eagles defensive coordinator. Maybe look at Brian Flores, the Vikings defensive coordinator. Those would be some of the guys that I would look at. Fangio was not great in his head coaching stint with Denver, but at the very least, he's proven to be basically the top defensive coordinator in the league. You know, Dan Quinn, when he was with Atlanta, yes, he made the Super Bowl, but it wasn't like a super successful regime there. I'd maybe look at giving Fangio another shot, especially if that gets him away from a divisional rival.
Yeah, Fangio, I think, is a long shot. I think he's happy, you know, in Philadelphia. They're successful, and they're set up for the next few years at least for some success. Obviously, he's got one of the best defensive tackles in the league. He's got one of the better secondaries. They've got, you know, Mitchell, Slay Jr., Cooper DeJean. So I think they're set up for at least a couple more years of playing really good football in the AFC. But a little context, I do think Cooper Rush is going to get paid. But for the listeners who don't know, basically Cooper Rush had an incentive in his contract that if he had more than 55% of the snaps in the season, he gets $500,000 bonus. And in their last game, they sat Cooper to play Trey Lance, and he was just shy of his 55% of snaps. And, you know, some people have asked Jerry about it, and he was kind of ambiguous, right? He didn't really give a straight answer. I do think that he's going to pay Cooper.
The answer is he doesn't want to pay him, which is why he benched him. But now he's seeing all the pressure and all the bad publicity that he got from it, so he has no choice but to pay him. But people are not going to forget it. Even if he does pay him, people will not forget it, and they're still going to react similarly.
And let's not forget, you know, they traded a third-round pick for Trey Lance, who has not worked out. And so he's still young. He still has talent. And, you know, it's possible that they wanted to kind of feature him in a game where they may not be playing against the best and see if they could get something out of him, you know, after this season. So they don't have to release them. Maybe he could get a 5th round, 6th round pick to recover. Who knows? But Jerry's in his, he's at 80s now, and he's not getting better. So, whatever. 14 was our year, so it didn't happen. You know, Dez caught the ball, by the way. But I think that I don't care who becomes head coach. I'm going to watch the draft. I'm going to get excited. I'm going to get excited about preseason. And then by week 5, I'm not going to be wearing my jersey anymore.
Maybe there's still time for you to hop on the Bears bandwagon with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams.
I'm good. Yeah.
All right. Well, we appreciate all you guys who are still watching the video at this point. Gave you guys some picks on the championship games, talking a little coaching carousel. We will be back again next week talking Super Bowl. So very exciting times coming up in the NFL world. There's only 3 games left on the regular or the postseason slate. until we have to go in our long hibernation period without football. So enjoy these championship games. BroThrow.com/YouTube if you want to sign up for all action, not just on NFL, but NBA, college basketball, hockey, MMA, baseball when it starts back up. We got it all for you. BroThrow.com/YouTube. Appreciate you guys for watching. Chad, see you in the next one. Peace.